Diamond V Sports presents the American Sports Cavalcade. A panorama of speed, color, drama, and excitement. The American Sports Cavalcade.
NHRA Sportsman drag racers are a lucky bunch because once a year, their annual tour brings them to San Air International drag strip just east of Montreal, a racetrack surrounded by Canadian beauty, such as this pastoral scene just a short cast away from the pit area. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Evans, and today we bring you coverage of top alcohol dragsters, top alcohol funny cars, competition eliminator, and a wrap-up of the rest of the categories as well. And what a year this has been for sportsman drag racing. Performance frontiers have been blazed that a lot of people thought, well, impossible. For one of those stories, here's Gary Gerald.
Well, Steve, when you go racing in NHRA's alcohol sportsman divisions, you know that you're in for the tightest, closest racing competition you'll find in drag racing. When you look at an alcohol funny car, it appears to be virtually the same as a professional funny car. When you look at the distance of the wheelbase, it's the same. The weight is about the same. They both run a pair of magnetos. They have one blower, one set of injectors. There are, however, a few basic differences. One is in the transmission. 3-speed transmission here in the alcohol funny car, and of course the pro funny cars run high gear only. But the major difference relates, of course, to fuel. Nitromethane in the Big Brother professionals, and they will generate 3,000 to 3,500 horsepower. But here in the alcohol funny cars, it's methanol that's poured into the fuel tank. It'll still generate 1,800 to very close to 2,000 horsepower. What does that mean on the racetrack? Well, it means about a second difference, 3/4 to a second. In the pros, you're talking about close to 5 seconds flat, and of course nearly 280 miles per hour. In the alcohol division, you're talking about, well, in Bob Newberry's instance in this car, first car in the alcohol division ever into the 5-second category. But basically, close to 6 seconds at about 230 miles per hour. It's great competition any way you look at it, and basically this is at about 1/3 the cost of the professional counterpart.
Well, Gary, as you know, even a racer the quality of a Bob Newberry can have problems. And earlier, we saw Bob have a big one in round 1 of top alcohol funny car competition. Oil leaking out of the engine, starter buster couch was forced to shut the record holder off. A little bit later, I talked with him. Well, a very disappointed Bob Newberry crew already back at their pits, and Bob, it appears some oil was actually coming out of the block itself.
Well, we had a problem. I'm not quite sure what happened, but we've got a little hole in the side of the block. I don't know, maybe something probably came loose on the bottom end and got wedged between a rod and the side of the block and poked a hole in the side.
I know you were very reluctant to shut it off. It was the last thing you wanted to do, but Buster gave you that cut sign and he meant it.
Buster knows, and the reason I really didn't want to shut the motor off is it sounded fine.
Yeah.
You know, I really didn't think there was anything wrong. I thought maybe the crew could seal or heal whatever problem that was on the motor. But it's a good thing Buster shut us off because it was leaking oil pretty good.
Well, everyone except maybe your fellow competitors really disappointed in seeing the world's quickest alcohol funny car out first round.
Probably there's 15 other happy cars here, and I'm probably the only one that isn't very happy right now.
With Newberry out, that leaves the door open for any of the remaining competitors. They're that tightly bunched together. Now, with the story of the other supercharged category we'll be seeing today, here's Big Daddy Don Garlitz.
Steve, this is a top alcohol dragster. And how do you tell this car from its professional counterpart? Well, look for the small wing on the front and the short wheelbase and the small wing on the back. Other than that, they're about the same. This is the car of Ray Noonan. He was eliminated in the first round like Newberry, and they'll be thinking of the next race. They're all done here today. But this class, I would like to say, is probably, monetarily speaking, you get more miles per hour for dollar than any other class. So it's very exciting. And then there's one other thing I'd like to state. This is the seating ground for the professional classes. If you'll look at our professional classes and look at some of the superstars, you'll see that they came out of top alcohol dragster. So pay attention to these names. These could be your superstars of tomorrow.
Well, Don Ray Noonan may not have survived round number 1 earlier today, but 8 other drivers did, including this man, Jeff Rapp. As we enter round 2 of top alcohol dragster competition, you saw the electrical starter just spinning over the motor, getting it started, but there appears to be some problems for his competitor.
As we see Ederman's engine start, a lot of smoke coming out of the fuel tank out of the back. This is the tank that's supposed to retain oil. They've shut the engine off. Evidently, Ederman has some mechanical problem that he can't repair.
Well, that is George Ederman sitting now quietly inside the car, starting to remove his gloves. And he'll be interested in seeing just how quick the man he should have raced, Jeff Rapp, will go. Because even though he has a single, you'll generally see all-out efforts by these drivers.
Yes, because they won't have lane choice for the following round.
Well, you can see the frustration for George Ederman. He is now out of the seat and helps push the car with the crew back away, and we get ready for the by run here by Jeff Rapp.
You know, so many of these Sportsman teams, whether they be an alcohol dragster, funny car, or other classes we'll show you today, are family affairs. Mom, dad, little sis, the family dog, all traipsing along to the races. A lot of them with motorhomes, camp out and make truly an experience out of the event. In some cases, the racing action is secondary, really, to the fun they have as a unit. Jeff Rapp is one of the best alcohol dragster runners on the Eastern Seaboard. He qualified number 3 to 6:21 with help from this man, Al Kinney, who is his crew chief. And from time to time throughout the day, Don Garlitz will be talking to some of the victorious crew chiefs. All right, it is time for Jeff Rapp to receive his gift. A single run here in the second round, and what a break it is. Well, Rapp shows the motor no mercy. He's going for the best elapsed time he can possibly get for lane choice. 6.27 brings applause from his crew at 219 miles per hour. Right now, Don Garlitz is with the man he should have raced.
Well, we had a little more trouble we could deal with.
Pardon?
We had a little more trouble we could deal with.
Yeah, we did. Apparently must have pitched a ringland or something or other, start smoking there on the line. Nothing we could do about it but shut her off.
Well, that was smart. We don't want to get hurt.
Right, that's right. We don't want to spill any oil out there on that track.
Very good. Better luck next time.
Thanks, Don.
Well, George Ederman seemingly not too disappointed after being eliminated here, and a bye run for Jeff Rapp as we now get set for our next pair. It'll be Wayne Selko against Tony Lieber. Lieber working from the far lane, completing his burnout. Selko has the lane choice, works from the near side. Steve, meanwhile, is now with Jeff Rapp.
Well, Jeff, you got a freebie in this round.
Yeah, George was broke, and you know, it's sorry to see it happen like that, but it's just the way it went.
You've got your time slip in your hand. Do you like it or not?
We made a move on that pass to try something, see if it would go quicker. It basically stayed the same, so we're going to go back and look for something else.
See you next round.
Okay, thank you.
So Jeff Rapp seemingly satisfied with a 6:27 at 219 miles per hour.
And Don Garlitz, those time slips have a lot more than just times on them these days.
Yeah, they have. They've got all types of information. They've got the reaction time. They've got the 60-foot time, the 330-foot time, the 8th mile time, and some tracks even have the 1,000-foot time on top of your quarter-mile time. And believe it or not, that is a tremendous tuning tool.
And one used by the likes of Wayne Selko to qualify number 4 to 6:23. He beat Tom Baum in round number 1. His crew chief is Terry Smith. The opponent for the Smith-Selko combination will be Tony Lieber. Lieber out of Delray Beach, Florida, came a long ways to just outside of Montreal. And the man that helps him turn the wrenches is Ron Raymond. They qualified number 8 at a 6.51. So between Selko and Lieber, Big Daddy, we've got a pretty good performance difference, but some of that could be made up by some good driving off the starting line.
Yes, it could. And these cars aren't quite as consistent as some of the professional classes, so they're not necessarily going to turn the exact time each run, Steve. So that means you don't anticipate there's going to be one certain car is going to be the winner.
One thing you will see with the alcohol dragsters, though, is tremendous RPM off of this starting line. Where a top fuel dragster leaves it at dead idle, they just stomp the pedal. Not so with these cars. They've got transmissions. They get the RPM up. Listen to them.
Lots of RPM there.
Lieber gets the jump coming out of the slot, but it's Selko coming on strong, and he'll cruise to a second-round victory here in Top Alcohol Dragster. Wayne Selko at 6:28, 191 miles per hour. And back at the start line, Don is with crew chief Terry Smith.
Well, you pulled it right out.
Well, we thought it was going to go a little faster yesterday. We went at 16, and we restripped the blower. It struck the tires because it was making more power and slowed to 191. He must have shut it off early. It'll run a low team next round.
Good.
Drivers on the top end.
And back in the pit area now, Top Alcohol Funny Car pits. This is the Frank Manzo crew in action. He's getting set to face Robert Elliott in round number 2 action. Steve?
Wayne Selko out of the car. Terrific job. Wayne, a 6:28. Make you happy or not?
No, I blew up.
Oh, really?
1,000-foot mark. Something happened.
Something serious, you think?
Yeah, we got parts, though. We can fix it.
You know, you choose the Keith Black style Hemi. You could run a road deck in areas. Why do you choose this particular motor?
It's just all I've ever raced with.
Familiar with it?
Very.
Well, you're going to have to get more familiar with it, I think. If it's heard internally, we'll keep track of that.
Selko not entirely happy, but he's still alive and he advances.
We're back at Zone Peak, Quebec, Canada for the Molson Grandnational Sportsman competition. I'm Steve Evans along with Big Daddy Don Garlitz and Gary Gerald. And here's our next pair in round 2 of Top Alcohol Dragsters. This will pit Don Blackshear versus Jeff Jones.
Blackshear working from the near lane, Jones on the far side, both completing their burnouts, both warming up the tires and getting ready to try to tackle this very tricky racing surface that has caused all kinds of problems for all kinds of competitors for many years.
Notice how far they do the burnouts, these alcohol cars. They really want to build heat. These engines run extremely cool with that methanol fuel, so they can go way down the drag strip and back up clutches calmly. They're not concerned so much with temperature.
Well, a little more maybe today just because of the ambient heat of the air. Sometimes you're right, though, Don, on a cool afternoon, you'll see the fuel injector and the blower completely covered with frost down at the far end of the racetrack. It's that kind of very cool temperatures involved. Well, Jeff Jones had a fine qualifying effort, number 2 at 6.18 seconds. Tom Jones is his crew chief. That's his brother. We talked before about the family quality of this sportsman racing. Tom Blackshear is their opponent. Blackshear is only 24 years of age, originally from Florida, where he was a mechanic at the drag racing school. Well, now he has a mechanic of his own, Bill Stanton, and they qualified number 6 at a 6:29, but improved on that number in round number 1 when they beat Mike Koski with a 6:20. So there's really only 2/100ths of a second apart between these two drivers. Lane choice went to Blackshear, and he has chosen the near lane.
You'll notice how carefully these guys stage. They don't deep stage because that high RPM, they could red light.
That's right. They stage only as deep into the beam as they absolutely have to. It appeared that Jones might have had a handle on this thing. He got crossed up in the middle of the racetrack. Blackshear comes from behind at 6:18, his best of the event, 220. Don?
Couldn't believe the way that thing moved after those wheels turned on the line.
Yeah, it was spinning the tire a little bit, but it got down there pretty good. I think it went to, what, a 16? Or an 18, I'm not sure, but we're real happy with the run.
Great run.
Thank you.
So Don Blackshear and his crew obviously happy as they advance from round number 2, and we'll go back and take a look now at this matchup against Jones.
I think here you'll see in the near lane the tire spin that Don Garlitz was talking about, and once that car hooks up, well, it just immediately makes up for anything it might have lost down the racetrack.
Even though Jones runs a respectful 627 the other lane, it is no match for the horsepower of the Blackshear engine. So he runs a fine 618 to win.
Don, we've seen a lot of shake with the alcohol cars. It's physically punishing.
Yes, it is, very much. It's bad about 200 feet out right through the middle of second gear. It wants to try to knock the tires loose. Doesn't have enough torque to smoke them, so it just tries to overpower them and start shaking.
To solve that is a matter of making more power?
No, not necessarily making more power, softening the clutch up to let it sort of glide through that area and then let it get aggressive on down the racetrack.
Good information. Thanks.
Thank you.
Don, some interesting insight into how Blackshear approaches this competition.
He better hope his competition doesn't hear that, because there's an awful lot of these cars do shake a little bit out there, and I bet they'd love to know how to fix it.
And as he was saying, when they shake, they want to knock the tire loose. A smooth ride is a quick ride in any kind of drag racing machine, just a little rule of thumb.
That's exactly right. You'll throw away about 10 to 1500ths of a second anytime you just quiver the tire, Steve.
Well, Richard Pizzelli has already been a story here, Don. He only qualified 13th at 7.19 seconds, but his brother Cliff apparently figured out what was wrong. because earlier today in round number 1 against Ray Noonan, the car that you showed us at the top of the show, Ray and his mechanic, Anton Puschlock, well, they got a bit of a surprise. They figured that Bazzelli was capable of no better than the 7th. Well, they were a little bit wrong there. And also, Bazzelli was laying in the way because Boz Baby, who was in the far lane, remember this was earlier today in round number 1, well, he had nothing to lose, so he maybe took a little bit of a gamble on the light. Actually, he just got away quicker than Noonan. Neither one of them had a particularly great start. But it was Bazzelli in the far lane with a bit of a hole shot. A 6:55 elapsed time, beat it quicker, 6:50. And that's possible because the clock doesn't start till the front wheels move out of those infrared beams. So Bazzelli showed a little smoke out of the motor now as he moves in to face off with Bill Barney. Barney, the #1 qualifier from Citrus Heights, California. His Arias motor wrenched by Mike Cooper. And they had a tremendous qualifying effort of 6.14 seconds and bettered that in round number 1 with a 6:08 from an alcohol dragster.
Well, clearly Bazzelli has got his hands full now as he works in the far lane and his crew makes the last-minute preparation. Barney's just been on a tremendous run. He won at the Cajun Nationals in Baton Rouge. He won the Spring Nationals at Columbus. He's got a streak going as he comes to this second round.
Well, I hope the amount of smoke that we saw coming out of that car in the other round, that they put some pistons or something in it.
That's right. It was pretty ominous looking. And off the mark first is Bill Barney. Boz Baby in the far lane trying to keep pace with him, and darn near does. Oh, my. Barney, another terrific elapsed time of 6.09 at 224 miles an hour. Don, see if you can find out from Mike Cooper what that smoke was right off the starting line.
Well, I saw that smoke, and I said, it's over.
No. That's the way we've been running here for whatever reason. It's the way it likes it. It likes to come out real strong. I've hate to change the clutch just to see whether it'll hook up any better or not.
I wouldn't change a thing.
Thanks, sir.
Indeed, running a 6:09, and so that sets up the pairings now for the top alcohol dragster semifinal round. It'll be Bill Barney going against Jeff Rapp. Barney has the lane choice. And the second pair in this category will feature Don Blackshear against Wayne Selko. Blackshear, with a quicker time, has lane choice. Let's go to Steve.
Well, Gary, this man, Bill Barney, continues to dominate this field. Another O, this time a 6:09.
Okay, very good. Pleased with that. It rattled the tires a little bit that time, but we're still happy with it.
Everybody is rattling the tires, and maybe their bridge work. Let me ask you something, Bill. You've got rags wrapped around the breathers. In the old days, that was a sign of a hurt engine.
Well, it's not. Actually, we need breather tubes actually back to what they call a puke tank. I hate to say the word, but that's what it's known as. And we don't have one yet. We'll have it for the next race, but we're just using that now.
So there's no problem there.
No, not at all.
Doesn't look like it with the 6:09, huh?
So after rounds of 6:08 and 6:09, you know Bill Barney's happy at Montreal. Alcohol funny cars are coming up in a moment.
Competition continues just east of Montreal at the NHRA Grandnational Sportsman Drag Races. I'm Steve Evans along with Gary Gerald, Big Daddy Don Garland, and we're starting second round of the alcohol funny cars. You might as well start with one of the best. Frank Manzo has won, well, more races than any East Coast-based alcohol funny car in his career. Just a beautiful Thunderbird-bodied automobile.
He'll be going up against Robert Elliott, and it's Elliott in the far lane completing his burnout at this time. Well, actually, both men getting a chance to heat the tires before they back into position and stage for this second round run. Top alcohol funny car.
Don Garland, the burnouts are accomplished in what gear?
High gear only, because if you burn out in one of the other transmission ratios, it could injure the transmission. And that's one thing about the alcohol funny cars. They are the most exciting cars to watch in a burnout. They make really nice, long, smoky burnouts. Very, very entertaining to the spectator.
And kind of fun for the drivers to do as well. I know Frank Manzo enjoys doing them with his funny car out of Morganville, New Jersey. I'm not sure his mechanic, John Glade, gets a big kick out of it when Frank almost overwinds the motor. But they qualified #1 at a 6:09. They're up against Robert Elliott in the Corvette from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. A lot of fans for that car here today. And his #1 fan has got to be the guy that makes it all work, Don Palmer. They qualified #5 at a 6:27. So they have got some work cut out for him.
Well, Manzo seems to be definitely the man to keep an eye on. He has been one of the strong competitors in this category. He is in the near lane, getting set now to stage as he inches forward into position, and on his left, Robert Elliott.
And just like the dragsters, you'll hear tremendous RPM, maybe more so out of the funny cars, because in some cases they're a bit heavier. The biggest motors in all of drag racing are starting to come to life.
Elliott got away quickly, but here comes Manzo. Manzo on the move is going to win it, and he wins it easily in the near lane with a 6:06. Low elapsed time of the competition. Let's go back to the start line now, and Big Daddy, Don Garlitz.
How'd you like that 6:06?
I'm happy with her, sir. We backed her up a little bit. We're not trying to go overpower the racetrack. And just going straight on down here. It's a good old racetrack right now compared to the rest of the weekend. Thank you.
A good old racetrack right now. There is a very happy John Glade as we take another look. Look at the start that Elliott gets, but then Manzo comes on like gangbusters.
Yeah, Elliott gets off the line. A brilliant start, but it makes no difference. Manzo has much more horsepower and keeps it stuck to the ground the entire way. Now, notice that both top speeds of these cars was about the same. It's that middle of the course charge by Manzo that makes the difference.
And Steve Evans is with the winner.
Well, this man, Frank Manzo, definitely got the competition's attention with a 6:06.
Oh, very good, very good. We're very happy. I think the track is much better today. And we kind of took a chance first round and went after it. We didn't want to lose lane choice. At least we hope not to. But
I don't think you will with that.
Well, Peter Gallen's capable of going 6 flat. He's gone to 5. Peter's pretty tough. And who knows, might not even be Peter. Cheeseman could be Peter. So we'll have to wait and see.
Okay, thanks, Frank. Let's find out. Gary?
Well, we'll keep that 6:06 very much in mind as we get set for that next pair. Peter Gallen against Chuck Cheeseman. And as they get set for their burnouts, we're going to see Gallen in the near lane. He has the lane choice. Cheeseman will be on the far side of the course. Cheeseman qualified 7th at 6:34. Gallen qualified 10th at 6:62.
Notice how streamlined and beautiful these cars are. The latest state-of-the-art in aerodynamics, these funnies. Notice I'm working that throttle to keep that wheel spin just exactly right for that burnout.
Well, that was Peter Gallen completing his burnout, and now Chuck Cheeseman will also have an opportunity to warm his tires. Now, if you're among those who just can't get enough information pertaining to the NHRA circuit that spans the North America continent, Steve Evans has a solution for you.
You know, I am lucky enough to spend a lot of time in the pit area at NHRA national events, and I meet a lot of great fans and racers, for that matter, who have an insatiable appetite for information on their favorite sport. Now, if you're one of those and you can't get enough, even with television and National Dragster and the magazines, here is Dave McClellan to tell us about a new service that NHRA is offering. David, welcome.
Steve, it is a new 900 phone number service. All you have to do is dial 1-900-468-NHRA. If you forgot what number goes with what letter, let me give you the numbers. 1-900-468-6472. Every day of every NHRA national event, that phone will be updated. The report will include an overall story about the day. Then you'll get individualized reports on Top Fuel, Funny Car, Pro Stock, Sportsman Racing, schedules, television schedules, you name it, you'll get it all.
Is this like when I call some airlines and all I do is get a busy signal for about 3 hours?
No, not quite. There's 3,000 incoming lines, and regardless of when you call, you'll always get the message starting at the front. So what you have the opportunity to do is every day of the national event, you can find out what's going on from the comfort and convenience of your home.
At what price, Dave?
Costs $1.25 for the first minute, then 75 cents for every minute thereafter. And what better way can you find out about what's happening if it's all the way across the country? Doesn't matter. It'll be updated every day.
You're going to have a whole bunch of new phone pals, Big Mac.
I know. You're my #1 phone pal, but either way, it's a lot of fun and a great challenge to keep people up to date with what's happening.
Thanks for the story.
Thank you, Steve.
An innovative touch incorporated by NHRA to keep you current on all the activities around the country. Right now, we're ready for this pairing. Peter Gallen against Chuck Cheeseman. Cheeseman in the far lane. It's Gallen on the near side.
Peter Gallen is one of only 2 funny car drivers to ever get into the 5s. We already saw Bob Newberry, the first to do so, out with problems in round number 1. So the man to watch possibly is in the near lane. But the man away first was in the far lane, Chuck Cheeseman. Oh, Cheeseman gets very near the center line, may have lifted off the throttle. Gallen, oh, he is tough. Frank was right. A 6:15 for Peter. Let's go to Don Garlitz on the starting line.
Well, it's not the best, but it's a good run.
It's not the best. We didn't have a lot of shake on that run. It hazed the tire. tires a little bit leaving, which we will definitely have to get for the next round because we have Frank Manzo, who's been on a string with the 6.0s. So we're going to go back there and turn some screws and win the next one.
Rick McPhillips with a pretty good perspective. He knows that there's quite a challenge at hand going against Manzo. Let's go back and take a look now at Peter Gallen's success here against Chuck Cheeseman.
We see Cheeseman get a starting line advantage right off. And you know, he might have held on to that if he hadn't got out of that groove. Right there, you see him get out of the black. And of course, that gave Gallen the chance to move ahead, and ahead he did to almost a full car length.
Well, Gary, Frank Manzo is down here holding his breath, praying that Peter Gallen or whoever won that last race didn't take lane choice away from him. Peter, you won the race, but you won't have lane choice. A 6:15, still a good number.
We've been having trouble getting the car down the track. That's the second full run here, so it stepped up a little from the first round. I think the right lane's a little bit better, but we're going to try to adjust for it.
You know, the alcohol cars use tremendous RPM right at the starting line. How high are you buzzing these motors?
Well, we leave relatively conservative compared to someone like Frank. We leave around 4,800. Frank tells me that he leaves around 6,500. Here at this racetrack, I'm not certain he's doing that, but that's where he normally leaves, somewhere near the moon.
Good luck against Frank.
Thanks, we need it.
Frank will put it on the moon. There's no question about that.
It'll be an interesting matchup as Gallen will go against Frank Manzo. More alcohol money cars coming up in a moment. Along with Steve Evans and Big Daddy Don Garlitz, I'm Gary Gerald. Delighted to have you along with us here for Sportsman competition. Top alcohol funny car round number 2 from Sanair Speedway just east of Montreal in Quebec, Canada. We're getting ready now for a matchup, a pairing between Ron Scott and Barry Payton.
Certainly two of the prettiest cars in the entire Sanair International Dragster. Ron Scott, that's a Beretta at 525 cubic inches. Over on the far side will be the Trans Am of Barry Payton. There you get a good look at it. Also 525 cubic inches.
Ron Scott, he qualified 6th with a 632, while Barry Payton qualified 9th with a 656. Both cars getting ready to go now.
And off the mark first is the far lane, Barry Payton. But Payton is all over the racetrack, and he decides he'd like to keep the shiny side up. The winner will be Scott at a 622, 222 miles per hour. And Scott better consider himself a pretty lucky man. Had Payton not got out of shape with the advantage he had right off the starting line, well, the tables might have been turned a bit. Might have been that pretty red and purple car going into the semifinal round. In fact, let's take another look. Watch that car in the far lane, Big Daddy.
They bring the R's up, and it's Payton out first by a train length. But you'll notice a little smoke starts to come off of one of the tires. It throws the car hard to the left, then it darts back to the right, and Payton has his hands full just keeping it under control and keeping it in his lane. And, of course, that lets Scott go on for an easy win.
And that brings us now to our next pair, Edward Parker going against Larry Dobbs. We continue second round action here in alcohol funny car. Look at that set of injectors right there on the Cardiac Kids machine. That's Dobbs' Pontiac Trans Am, and Don, you'd think they could hardly be able to see around those injectors.
They don't see very much around them, Gary. There used to be a small injector, they called it a bug catcher, then it was a bird catcher. Now what you're looking at is a buzzard catcher.
Let's check in now at the other end with Steve.
Well, Ron Scott has certainly got the consistency. A 621 in round 1, a 622 in round number 2. Now, if it was just consistently a little quicker.
A little quicker. We've got to pick it up a little bit.
With an alcohol car, what can you do to pick it up? Drive the blower a little harder? What do you do?
Drive the blower up a little bit, loosen the clutch up a little bit so the motor can get up quicker. And
how important do you think lane choice is here today on this racetrack? Everybody favoring the right-hand lane or the near lane.
I prefer the right-hand lane if I can get over there.
Why? Just a better surface?
Well, I've run all first and second round in the right-hand lane.
You're familiar with it more than anything else.
Right.
Okay, good job. Semifinal bound.
So Scott will contemplate his next round in the semifinals, and we get set for the pairing between Edward Parker and Larry Dobbs. It is Dobbs on the near side, Parker on the far side. Parker's in an 87 Forenza, and as we mentioned, Dobbs is driving a Pontiac Trans Am.
And Don Garlett, you can always tell who has the heavier cars because they run on a weight per cubic inch. These are the two biggest motors in the field. How about Parker at 543 cubic inches and Dobbs at 541? They've got the heavier cars, and they want that kind of cubic inches to move them.
Yeah, see, in this class, they don't have like a 500 cubic inch limit. It's how heavy is the car by the cubic inches.
Oh, there's a problem at the start. It's going to be Ed Parker all the way in the yellow car. Dobbs apparently was not staged quite properly, maybe staged on the body instead of the front wheels. And as soon as he brought the R's up, that red light was there. Ed Parker wins it at 6:52. And Don's with the winning crew chief, Bill Puglisi.
Now we're having fun, Don.
Well, red light was over in this lane. That seemed to be a big help.
It sure was, and we're happy for it.
So we'll check the semifinals now. Alcohol funny car. Our first pairing will feature Parker against Scott. Scott with a quicker elapsed time in the earlier round has lane choice. Our second pair, it'll be Manzo against Gallen. That ought to be quite a battle. Manzo, remember he ran that 6:06. He has lane choice. Here's Steve.
Gary, Ed Parker's first words out of the car, did I red light? No, you didn't, but the other guy did.
Oh, that's good.
It is hard to tell sometimes.
I was worried all the way down. That was me.
And when another guy leaves early, you tend to leave when he leaves.
That's right. I never saw him, so I was just afraid that he had shut off because he saw me red light, but I guess I didn't. And
well, it's not a time slip you're going to want to frame, but it's an improvement, a 6:52.
Oh, it's too bad.
Now, speaking of
that tune-up here.
Speaking of twos, why is there a $2 bill taped to the firewall in front of you?
One of my guys said he couldn't cash that $2 bill. He said he ought to give it to me.
A little good luck, John.
I think we're going to hold on to that $2 bill.
Maybe we'll get you in the 620s.
Motor somewhere.
Well, there's another happy semifinalist here at San Air. We've got Competition Eliminator coming up on our Sportsman show in just a moment. Hope you'll stay with us. We're back at San Air International Drag Strip east of Montreal, and we're about to bring you Competition Eliminator, drag racing's most mechanically creative category. Actually, Competition Eliminator is a combination of dozens and dozens of classes. Various cars, varying bodies, varying engine combinations, and it's all made possible by the electronic Christmas tree and the index system. David Nickens' Oldsmobile competes in the F-Altered class. Now, that class is assigned an index of 9.05 seconds. He's racing Vinnie Barone in a B Street Roadster. That class has an index of 9.10. So subtract 9.05 from 9.10, and what do you get? You get 0.05 of a second, and it's by that amount that Vinnie Barone in the near lane will leave first. It is all dialed into the Christmas tree. Now, 05 on the tree is very hard to even see. It almost looks like it's heads up. David Nickens is the defending champion in the green, red, and white Oldsmobile. He's in the far or right lane as we look from this angle. Vinnie Barone in a traditional hot rod, V8 powered Ford T Roadster. Whoa, and David Nickens couldn't wait. Nickens, the defending champion, has red lighted away his chances. Vinnie Barone will go into the semifinals of Competition Eliminator.
What you see there, Steve, is those trees are half-a-second trees for these handicapped cars. And he was probably looking over at the other yellow light on that, exactly the half-a-second difference. Watch them, they leave on the same bulb. See, they both leave together.
But Nickens was out too soon. Barone, the winner, is with Steve.
Vinnie David Nickens has left too soon, left the red light. You're headed for the semifinals. Great.
Yes, Steve. Boy, I'll tell you something. This thing's been running good all weekend, and we ran a qualifying session and went 62 under, and we were 10 pounds light, and they threw the run out on us. And we could probably run 58, 59 under here. You know, we haven't got CIC'd yet right now.
You haven't gotten what?
CIC, that's that system over 0.5 of a second. They penalize you. If you go 55 under, you lose 500ths. We've been pretty lucky, so we still have it left to run. If Steve Taylor wins his round, which he should, we have a little something left, and we maybe can win the round.
All right, I'm going to send you back to the pits with a...
Thank you, Steve.
So Vinnie Barone, a happy man in his 27T Roadster with a victory over defending champ David Nickens. Now we started with a field of 32. We're now in the third round, and we're looking at Alan Armstrong and Harold Stout pulling into position for their side-by-side run. On the far side, a 72 Opel driven by Armstrong. On the near lane, it's an 88 Firebird, which competes in the Comp Econo Altered class. And earlier, Steve Evans had a chance to define that racing category for us.
The E in some of the Competition Eliminator class designations is supposed to stand for economy of construction. And at one time it really did. Still, you have to run a single 4-barrel carburetor, and you still have to run an automatic transmission with a torque converter. But no longer are there many engine restrictions. And let's take a look at what this team, Phil Zupka and Jules Schoenberger, have done to their economy altered. This is not the traditional small block Chevrolet. It's still kind of the corporate GM engine. but they've taken the design of the V6 Buick cylinder heads, the aftermarket has, in conjunction with Buick, and added another cylinder, okay, so that there's 4 on each side. Now, if you're familiar with small block Chevys, you know they have Siamese intake and exhaust ports. In other words, 2 ports side by side. No longer. It's completely symmetrical. Intake, 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 intake. Same with the exhaust. 1, 2, 3, 4. And what that has done is improved considerably the flow of air and exhaust through the motor, and that has increased horsepower dramatically. It means you've got to hand fabricate your own manifold. You've got to grind a completely different camshaft, and by the time you're done, you could invest $6,000 or $7,000 in this kind of a conversion.
Doesn't sound very econo to me, Steve.
Our next pair. Let's get set for Armstrong now. Armstrong competes in the M Altered. He has an index of 10 seconds flat. Beat Paul Giannone in the second round. He'll be going against Harold Stout, C Econo Altered class, index 9.20. Beat Augie Vettorino in the second round, and on the comparison, Armstrong will get an 0.8 of a second advantage.
And that's just over a light and a half on the Christmas tree. And you say, well, it's got to be tough to sit there and wait and watch your competition get smaller and smaller. Well, the equalizer is, if you're the quicker car, then your competition has the first chance to red light, and if he or she does, it's all over.
So Armstrong is away quickly in the Opal, and it's up to Stout now to try to track him down. Here they come.
Armstrong got a much better light than did Stout, and that's probably why he held on to the win. A 9:59 at 138 miles per hour will move him ahead into the semifinals, joining Vinnie Barone there. Now, it's not as obvious as in heads-up racing who has the starting line advantage, but still, NHRA's reaction timers tell us that Armstrong was 1/100th away from a perfect light. Stout was 16/100ths away from that.
And that's a big difference to give up on the starting line. And so as Stout went down the racetrack, he just saw the Opal out in front the entire time. And even though he gained a little bit on him at the end, it wasn't near enough to make up that kind of difference that he lost on the starting line.
Steve Evans?
Well, the little Opel GT with Alan Armstrong aboard, the M Altered, goes into the semifinal round. You got to be thrilled.
Pleased is right.
Tell us what's under the hood of this unique little car.
4-cylinder Pontiac. 168 cubic inches.
In the Opel GT for a long time was a real popular drag racing car. They kind of went away and they're coming back.
I don't know if they're back. Just a cheap old car.
Well, a cheap old car that's running very strong. Thank you, Alan.
Well, Alan Armstrong got a lot out of that Opel in that particular instance as he advances, and now our next pair rolls into position. Steve Taylor goes against Joseph Pica.
Joseph Pica has an A Econo dragster, and he is in the near lane, while Steve Taylor is driving a C Alter. He is over in the far lane.
You know, that dragster, Don, has an index assigned to it by NHRA. What a well-built, well-driven car should run of 7.75 seconds. You remember Top Fuel dragsters. You drove Top Fuel dragsters that weren't that quick, and this thing has an automatic transmission and a 4-barrel on it.
Well, Swamp Rat 1 set the record at like 879 in 1957, so, I mean, that was the latest state-of-the-art.
So Joe Pica, as we said, of Torrington, Connecticut, has that tough index of 7.75 seconds with his dragster. Now, Steve Taylor out of Houston, he is in a full-bodied stock-type automobile, and he has an index in the Charlie Alder class of 850. So he's going to get a monstrous head start. We heard Vinnie Barone kind of predict Taylor as the winner. Well, it's pretty easy to do, at least on paper, because Taylor is punishing the index harder than his Pica, running further under it. He should win if he drives well.
But drives well is right. He's got to catch a good light in this class, Steve.
All right, here they go. And it is Taylor with a much better light. Taylor has got a good chance of staying ahead of that dragster. Oh, the dragster flashes by, but about 30 feet too late. Taylor runs 8:02 at 168 miles per hour to a losing 7:22 at 185 miles per hour.
Here again, as we watch the slow action replay, we can see how graphically the one car leaves ahead. It's like it's a total different car race, but that's to make up the difference of this faster car in the near lane. So he tries valiantly to catch him, but he didn't leave on time, so he didn't have a good shot there, and he didn't have a long enough racetrack.
Steve, if there was ever a time to cut a good light, that was it, and you did.
Yes, sir. Mr. Pica's tough. He run fast qualifying, and it was time for light. I'd been a little off on light all day. We made some adjustments on the clutch, and I went up there with light on my mind, because that wins most of these races, as you well know.
You got Vinnie Barone next round. What do you think?
It's going to be another light. There's no other choice.
Let me ask you something. When the handicap is close, when the lights come down very close together, is it harder or easier?
From my standpoint, I race my own race. I don't know there's another guy in the other lane. I do my water burnout, all my stuff, and I race my race, and I don't look at the next lane. My when light comes on, I win.
Just put it out of your mind?
You worry about the other guy, you're losing concentration on what you should be doing.
Good philosophy. See you in the semi.
Thank you, sir.
That's a sign of a real good driver if you can put the other light and the other man out of your mind. It's how to win.
So that brings us to our next pairing. We're watching Brian Browell of Lafayette, Indiana, push his dragster now through a burnout process. There's nobody in the other lane, however. Ralph Hope from Hyde Park, Ontario, Canada, had qualified second in his 23 Ford, but mechanical problems have put him on the sideline. Browell drives a Deve dragster. Steve earlier took a look at that car.
You can find a dragster class in Competition Eliminator for every conceivable type of engine. From huge 500 cubic inch Hemis down to little bitty four-bangers. You can build an economy dragster. One 4-barrel carburetor is all you can use, and a fully automatic transmission. Or you can build an all-out dragster like Brian Browell has done here. And Brian falls kind of in the middle as far as the power plants are concerned. This is a 260 cubic inch, 90-degree Chevrolet V6. Now, he chose two big 4-barrel carburetors. He thinks that they actually make more power than fuel injection. But in that, it doesn't have a lot of low-end power. It's not that big a motor. Here is where Brian really spent his racing budget, in the drivetrain. Now, inside this titanium explosion-proof bell housing is a dual-disc clutch, a slider clutch, kind of like the top fuel dragsters used to use years ago. And what is this? That is a Liberty 4-speed transmission. Had he used the Lenkos like the pro stock drivers do, well, he'd had 3 transmissions. The motor would have been clear out here somewhere. He wouldn't have had nearly enough weight on the rear axle for traction. So he chose the Liberty unit. It's wider, but still fits in the chassis nicely, and it's much shorter, so the engine is back. And all of those lines you see, well, that's the air shifter controlled by Brian from the cockpit. He actually shifts this car 1, 2, 3 times down the racetrack.
So a fascinating close-up look at the car on the line now, driven by Brian Browell. Will make a bye run after Ralph Hope ran into problems and broke and is unable to come out and make this pass.
Let's listen to it shift.
Very distinctive, Steve.
Well, that is a snarly little V6 Chevrolet. And he powers it to 8 seconds flat. And in those 8 seconds, he accumulated 146 miles per hour. That's a pretty good ride by anybody's standards. And that sets up the semifinals of Competition Eliminator. It will be Browell's little V6 Chevrolet we just saw against Alan Armstrong. Browell has lane choice. He ran further under the index. And here's a classic in comp racing. Steve Taylor's full-bodied Ford Probe will have lane choice over Vinnie Barone's B Street Roadster. And this is Wayne Selko getting suited up. That means the semifinals of Top Alcohol Dragster are coming right up. Stay with us at San Air.
In the Grandnational at Montreal, or just outside Montreal at San Air Speedway, the Sportsman are in the spotlight today, and right now we're getting ready for Top Alcohol Dragster semifinal round. Don Blackshear going against Wayne Selko.
We're looking at Selko's automobile. He is over in the far lane because that's where Blackshear put him. Blackshear 6:18 in the round before gave him lane choice. Kuhlman giving a signal to Selko there to go ahead and hammer this thing. We've got nothing to lose. That lane may have a little bump in it some of the drivers don't like. It might be a little slicker, but more than anything, it's probably just psychological. If you see more cars win in one lane, well, that's the lane you go into, and that's where Blackshear is. It is Selko away first. Selko's ahead. A little smoke either off the engine or the tires spells his demise. Don Blackshear, 6:21, slowed up just a little bit. Maybe his crew chief Bill Stanton knows why. Don?
6:21, you're in the finals.
Yeah, we're in the final again. That's the 3rd or 4th time this year. We're going to try to take one this time. Hopefully, we heard it last run, so we kind of backed it down a little bit, but we're going to give it a shot.
So we'll find out now who will oppose Don Blackshear in the finals as we get set for our next pairing. It features Bill Barney and Jeff Rapp.
Jeff Rapp executes a real fine burnout in the alcohol dragster. This is a very important procedure for these cars because they lead real hard with these 3-speed transmissions. You've got to have traction.
So as Barney and Rapp get ready for their run, let's check on the reaction now of Don Blackshear. He is with Steve.
Don Blackshear, your engine's clean and dry and headed for a big final round. What do you think?
We're very excited. This is our 4th final round this season so far. We're having a tremendous year. Everything looks great. Solved the tire shake problem on that run, softened the clutch a little bit. It went right down there.
Tell us a little bit about the motor that you select to run in this category. Yet there's a variety of power plants.
Basically, use the standard Keith Black configuration with the Brad Anderson cylinder heads. We're running one of Mike Cool's new prototype high helix style superchargers. Has really been the performance it gained in this car. Basically, that's about it.
Now, you may have to contend with a car capable of running 6.0s in the final round.
I ran Barney 2 weeks ago at the final round in Columbus. This car's very strong with the PSI blower, but we'll try to shake the dice around a little bit and see what happens.
Good job.
Thank you.
Don Blackshear basking in the glory of his 4th final round appearance of the season in Top Alcohol Dragster. Right now, our next pairing will determine his opponent. It's Bill Barney working from the near lane against Jeff Rapp. Barney, the number 1 qualifier. Rapp was the number 3 qualifier coming to this competition.
But Barney has really extended his performance edge over the field, including Jeff Rapp, who is over in the far lane. Let's see what happens. Their stage. It is Rapp away first. But Rapp is sideways, and you can't win drag races unless you keep them pointed down the quarter mile. So Barney wins it at 6:17 in the heat of the day to a losing 6:54-2:19. Don's with crew chief Mike Cooper.
Still getting that smoke and still getting down there.
Yeah, we're working on that clutch a little bit, but we slowed down a little bit. We put a little more fuel in it. I think we'll have to go back over the other way on the fuel system. The bearings look good. The thing's a tear on bearings. That PSI is quite a piece of equipment. Thanks, sir.
So Bill Barney is in another final, and the matchup looks like this for Top Alcohol Dragster. Barney goes against Blackshear. Barney will get selection of the lane. Let's get his reaction now as we go back to the other end with Steve.
Well, Bill Barney just continues to pummel his opponents. A 6:17 this time. Bill slowed down a bit.
Yeah, we took some clutch out of it and probably was the wrong way to go, maybe.
You never know. You might have smoked the tires if you hadn't.
Yeah, that's true. Well, we thought.
You know, a lot of people are talking about this supercharger, this PSI unit. It's different than the normal superchargers, the roots blowers.
That's correct. It's got a little different approach of supercharging in cars, and we're still experimenting with it. We really don't have that many runs on it, and it's something we're learning right now.
And inside, it really does look like a screw, just screwing air down into the motor.
That's absolutely correct.
Well, a lot of people think it's worth a lot of performance. If you had to take it off, what do you think you'd lose?
Well, it's a different combination. Obviously, we've gone never this quick, but close before. Sure. So I really couldn't tell you right off.
But it's worth something.
I think it's worth something. We're working on it.
He isn't talking much about it either, is he?
It'll be Barney versus Blackshear. But coming up in a moment, Alcohol Funny Cars semifinal round from Sanair.
Well, pulling into the staging lanes here at Sanair International Drag Strip, the beautiful little roadster of Vinny Barone. He's run some cool water through it, probably adjust the valves, maybe replace the spark plugs. He's ready for the semifinal round of competition eliminator. But NHRA is not quite ready for him, because first we have the semifinals of the blown alcohol funny cars. The biggest engines in all of drag racing, and through the quirks of qualifying, this side-by-side race, this particular affair has all the ingredients of being the best of the day, better than even the final, no matter how it works out. It is Frank Manzo in the near lane versus that car, Peter Gallant, one of only 2 funny cars to ever penetrate the 5-second elapsed time zone. The poverty-stricken car, yeah, right, up against Manzo, who operates a construction company in New Jersey, the second winningest alcohol funny car driver ever. The credentials are here for a terrific race. They're away. It is off the mark first by just 200 Gallant, but Manzo breaks his back with a 6:07 to a losing 6:27. Don Garlitz is with crew chief John Glade.
Another out.
Well, we're trying hard. We left it alone after the first run because it ran so good. We really didn't expect it to run that good, to be honest with you. I just want to get back there and get him out of the car. Thanks a lot.
Well, some candid comments from John Glade. They didn't expect it to be that good. It was good enough at 6:07 to put him in the finals. And our next pair going to determine who will run against Manzo in the finals. It'll be Edward Parker going against Ron Scott. Scott is in the near lane. He has the lane choice as he gets set now to complete his burnout. And on the opposite side, it's Parker who now rolls his color from the sheen into position. Gets a little moisture there, liquid on the tires, ready to heat them up. And as he completes a burnout, let's go to Steve with Frank Manzo.
Yeah, Gary, Ace Manzo, Frank Manzo, actually got out of the car and he said, Steve, did I win? It really wasn't that close. Yeah, you won.
Well, when I left, it tried to spin the tires a little bit. It started tire shaking. And I looked over and I thought I seen Peter there, but I just got it going again, and I guess we won.
This is one of the finest days you've had in drag racing in a long time. And oh, by the way, that was a 6:07.
Oh, very good, very good. We're very happy because the car's been inconsistent the first part of the season. And I think we've just been trying a little too hard. And as of late, we just kind of, you know, we're just chipping away at it instead of trying to take big chunks. I think the 5-second zone has made us try too hard to try and be a 5-second car. And now we've just forgot about it. We're going to try and win some races.
All right, we'll see this man in the final round. And Gary, who's he going to face when he gets there?
Well, it's going to be either Edward Parker or Ron Scott. Scott has had rounds of 621, 622. Parker has struggled up in the 650 category, and it's Parker on the far side now has got his work cut out for him. Scott in the near lane hoping to get into the finals against Manzo.
But as you know, Gary, in this kind of racing, anybody can win.
Oh, absolutely, and they both are intent on doing that. Well, Scott's car doesn't move hard off the starting line at all. Weaving his way down the racetrack is Parker to another 650, 655 to be exact, at 212 miles per hour.
You might not have expected that that would be good enough to get you to the finals, but 3 times he's been in that same range, and it's been good enough each and every time, and he'll go to the finals now against Frank Manzo. Manzo will get lane choice by virtue of his quicker semifinal round. Here's Steve.
Well, here's a man who's awfully glad he made the trek to Eastern Canada. Ed Parker, congratulations. You're a final round bound.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
A little bit of a surprise to you, maybe?
Certainly is. We've had a lot of luck and not much horsepower.
Well, unfortunately, that didn't change. You're in the 650s, and your opponent in the finals in the 6.0s.
Well, I don't know what. We have kind of good light.
Yeah, a real good one.
Maybe he'll give us a handicap.
You know, with that kind of relaxed attitude, he just might do it.
We don't know. We'll try. Thank you very much.
They're having a good time, huh?
Well, indeed, Ed Parker having a great time here at Sanair today as he rolls into the finals, and we watch Brian Browell rolling his competition car into the lanes for a semifinal run in just a moment.
Two completely different types of automobiles here in the first race of the semifinal round of competition eliminator. I'm Steve Evans along with Gary Gerald and Don Garlett, and that is Vinnie Barone in the Street Roadster hopping it up to the starting line. In the near lane is a man he predicted that he would race, Steve Taylor. Now, Vinnie Barone's B Roadster, as we told you before, 910 index. Steve Taylor's Charlie Alden an 850. So 0.6 of a second advantage will go to the little Street Roadster. You got to make maximum advantage of that. You got to capitalize on it when you get it. It'll be a little over one of those yellow lights on the tree. Beautiful start by both drivers, Don Garland.
Yes, it was, and that's what it takes. Be able to concentrate on your set of the lights like the earlier driver said.
And Vinnie Barone gets the win. He held off that late charge from Steve Taylor, and the Roadster is the winner over the Ford Probe.
And again, it appeared to me anyway, Don, that Steve Taylor in the near lane, his car was pulling a little bit towards the center. Let's watch and see if we can detect it in replay.
Yes, there it goes, just a little bit off to the center. See, it drops that one drive wheel into the white stuff, and that's not good. You don't give up much, but it's enough to cause you to lose, because this is close racing.
852.
Did it really? Oh, my God. So we get hit for the next round, 800, 700s for the next round.
Yeah, they're going to tag a little on you. You know, it's not obvious today, but don't you sometimes with a shorter wheelbase Roadster maybe not have the consistency of some of the other cars you race?
Yeah, especially down in the lower gears. Once it gets up past the 8th mile, it's pretty stable, Steve. It's the lower gears are rough because of the 100-inch wheelbase, and it's so erratic in how you sit in the car. It's, you know, it's a totally different car. They're very hard to get, and we had it for 4 years, and to get it to work right, it's taken a lot.
But you love Roadsters?
Well, I just happen to like this one. Not all.
Give me a honk, and we'll see you in the final.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Steve. Same.
You gotta love the horn, and you gotta love that ear-to-ear grin on Vinnie Barone as we watch now the other semifinal pairing. Brian Browell rolling his dragster in. He'll go against Alan Armstrong, and let's check the handicap now and see who gets the advantage. Better than 1.5 seconds will be the difference.
Well, you remember Armstrong said he had just a cheap little old race car? Well, he's right. His car is worth about what the transmission is in Brian Browell's dragster. And look at Browell fly, Don.
Yeah, that car has got an expensive transmission shifting arrangement in it. The most complicated one, I think, on the grounds today.
And it helped him power right past that Opel GT. Brian Browell goes to the final at 796, 156 miles per hour.
You know, when you talk about a 2.5 handicap, that's like light years. Look at that Opel go, and the dragster of Brown has to sit there on the starting line while Armstrong Cadillac's down the racetrack a half a track away. But finally, as we get to about the 8th mile, the dragster begins to make up the difference, and by the time we get to the end, he's got his wheels out in front of him.
Well, a terrific run by Brian Browell. It'll put him in the finals now against Vinnie Barone, and Vinnie Barone will get the lane choice. We'll be back with more from the Grand National at Sanair Speedway outside Montreal in a moment. Back in Canada for the Grand National, I'm Gary Gerald along with Don Garlitz and Steve Evans, who's profiling a car that just might fool you in a Sportsman show.
What's a pro stock car doing in our coverage of Sportsman racing? Well, it's really not a pro stock car. It's built and looks exactly like one, but it's Royce Miller's Super Comp machine. And that's what's so great about Sportsman racing. If a driver has the aspirations of moving into the double tough pro categories, they can start, well, like Royce did here, with a Super Comp car. He's in the environs of a pro stocker, but only has to run 890. He can go to a bigger engine, a Lenco transmission, move into competition eliminator, and maybe ultimately be the next Bob Glidden. Same in the nitro categories. You can start in comp, move into alcohol dragster, funny car, and make the springboard from there. Now today we're really concentrating on just 3 of the NHRA Sportsman classes. There's quite a few more. And here's Gary with the information as to what happened there in Super Comp, for example. Gary?
Well, Steve, that beautiful machine of Royce Miller went into the finals in Super Comp against Jeff Black. Now in Super Comp, you can't run faster than an 8.90. If you do, you break out. It's just like a red light. It disqualifies you from the competition. This is what happened now in the Super Comp final, Miller against Black.
And this is truly a driver's category, Gary. This was earlier today. Now the dragster is out in front, but he's not pacing himself. He runs too quick. Royce Miller was the winner in Super Comp Eliminator, his first ever national event. That's going to give hope to all the bracket racers across the country. It can be done. Then we moved into Super Gas. There, the performance limitation is a 990, and it was Sheldon Gecker in the near lane up against Jim Morrison in the Super Gas final.
And it was Morrison who had the advantage, working on the far side of the racetrack. He gets the victory. It was close, but Morrison, the Super Gas Eliminator champion at Montreal.
Then the stock Eliminator final rolled to the starting line. It was Ronald Yorcourt versus Mike Jacobs. Jacobs was in the near lane. Now Yorcourt cut a super light in a fantastic car. In fact, in stock Eliminator, you'll find all the muscle cars of your dreams from the 60s and the 70s. They run on indexes, but with a breakout. Unlike Super Gas or Super Comp, it's not heads up. The winner was Ronald Yorcourt, stock Eliminator in the far lane.
Yorcourt happy to put his name up alongside Miller and Morrison as other Grand National Sportsman champions. In the Super Stock final, a little more sophistication, more modifications on the cars competing here. Joe Scott going against F.J. Smith. Smith in the near lane.
Joe Scott hammered the throttle, wheels high in the air, and unless he glanced in the rear view mirror, and I'm going to doubt that, he didn't know that F.J. Smith had left a red light on the tree. When Smith came around, maybe Joe thought he lost. No, Joe, you are the NHRA Grand National champion in the Super Stock Eliminator, and our congratulations to all of those winners. Now it is time for the competition eliminator final. And yes, boys and girls, NHRA has slapped Vinnie Barone with a 7/100th of a second penalty. That will cut down his handicap on the Christmas tree. You say, that's not fair just because he ran good. Well, wait a minute. Do you do that to a Barone, a champion, in just one round? Or do you lower the index and affect every poor B Street roadster in the country? This is the better system.
Well, I certainly think that's a much more fair way to do it than to affect all of those cars that really the performance might not be there.
Exactly. Maybe they don't have the kind of money it takes to invest in a megabuck set of cylinders. their heads. They can still run competitively at the regional level. All right, here's how it sets up. Vinnie Barone's B Street Roadster now at 9:03. Brian Browell's D Dragster Colt 6 is enough at 8:45. 58 hundredths of a second is the advantage that goes to Barone. 7 hundredths less than what it could have been. Could be a factor, Don.
Well, it could make the difference. If he's just going to be a real close race, he could lose. But hopefully he'll have the performance. He'll be able to make it up.
Hopefully for him, anyway. Brian Browell doesn't feel approximately that way. Brian Browell does not cut a very good. In fact, Brian Browell's got big troubles, period. I think that car was hurt when it came to the starting line. He was just hoping that Vinnie Barone might red light away his shot. Vinnie Barone cards an 8.53-second elapsed time. The 1986 Winston Comp champion has won his first race of 1989. The Alcohol Funny Cars are coming to the pad. Their final just moments away. Stay with us from Sanair.
The Grand National in Montreal. Time for the finals now in Alcohol Funny Car. It's Frank Manzo getting set to go against Edward Parker. Manzo has been the #1 qualifier. He has consistently been in the 6-0 bracket. Parker struggled with 650s, but he still has an opportunity at hand as he'll go for the championship.
As a very famous racer once said, I'd rather be lucky than fast, and that's just exactly what Parker's thinking right now. Luck has got him right to this point, and all he's got to have is just a little bit more, and he's the champion.
Well, that colorful 87 Forenza driven by Parker now executing the burnout in the far lane. And Manzo has his T-Bird ready to do the same from the near side. So both men have now completed their burnouts. They'll back into position and stage, but before they have an opportunity to do that, we're going to be swinging down to the opposite end of the track. Let's hear from a man who has had a great afternoon here at Sanair, a winner, Vinnie Barone.
This could be the happiest winner of the day. Vinnie Barone, you finally won this thing.
I'm telling you, Steve, I've been in the final here 82, 84, and 86. Runner-up all 3 times. Boy, this is great. It's this thing's been running good all weekend long, and it's got so much power, and I thank the guys down at Nickens Brothers Racing Engines for the power they give us, and, you know, my crew, Ronnie and Billy, and everybody just put an effort in. And the thing is fast. It's really running good. So, you know, it's up to me as a driver to bring it to the final round and win the race.
Now, even though NHRA put a few more hundredths on you, that didn't concern you?
It did, but we had just, I don't know what it just ran just now, but it didn't really bother us much because it can run probably 59. We probably could have run 59 under that run.
Now, before you get out of here, you got to tell me about the horn, Vinnie. I think I'm emotionally involved with your horn.
Well, I bought this car from Sable and Bauer going back a few years ago, and they had all the stuff that you would need for the 27 to make it an original.
An original 27T horn?
I believe it is, and he had the radiator in the front and all the stock stuff on it. Everybody liked the horn, so, you know, I figured...
The victory honk.
We left it on there for everybody, you know, and they enjoy it. The kids enjoy it in the pits and all as we drive too. We honk it, and it's a goof.
Here comes your crew. Celebrate.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve.
So let the celebration begin. A great afternoon for Vinnie Barone and his crew. Competition Eliminator in our Sportsman show from Sanair Speedway. Bear hugs all the way around. And this looks like a celebration that may go on for some time.
This is great.
Meanwhile, back on the line, burnouts complete. Parker into position. He'll go as the underdog against Frank Manzo, the top qualifier who has been by far the fastest man in this category all afternoon.
I guarantee you right now as he stages, Ed Parker has got a grin from ear to ear. Win or lose, he has made his first ever final round. He may be 45, but he hasn't been drag racing in this tough category all that long. He's tickled to death.
And there's no bigger thrill in drag racing than that first time in the finals, Steve.
Boy, Don Garland, I'm sure remembers his. So Ed Parker right now, his only hope is that Frank Manzo might break something. Parker all over the racetrack. Manzo straight and strong. Seagulls flying overhead. Frank Manzo has won it here today at 6.08 seconds, a whopping 227 miles per hour. Don Garland?
6:08. You're the champion. What do you about that?
We worked for it, I think. We run pretty consistent. We've just been trying to do everything we could to make it just go right down the racetrack. It's a little tricky out there for the shorter wheelbase cars, we think.
You did a great job.
Thank you, Don.
So John Glade heads for a reunion at the far end of the strip with winning driver Frank Manzo. Meanwhile, Bill Barney now ready to go against Don Blackshear. Alcohol Dragster final is coming up. Barney, with the quicker semifinal run, has lane choice. He has elected to work from the near side of the track.
And Barney's got one thing on his mind. He has been consistently smoking the tires off the line each run. And they took a little clutch out of it trying to help that. But if they take too much clutch out, the performance will go away. If they put too much in, it'll spun the tires too much. So the question is, have they set that clutch correctly for this final round?
Well, the decisions they've been making in recent weeks have been right on target because he has won the last 2 NHRA shows in this category. Let's go down to Steve now. He's with a very happy Frank Manzo.
This race had Frank Manzo's name all over it from the very beginning this morning. Congratulations, a 6:08 polished him off.
Thank you very much. We're very happy with the performance of the car. The condition of the track was a little slippery the first day, but NHRA seemed to get it in shape so we could have a good race here, and we're very happy.
You know, that was your race to win and yours to lose. You had to go up there and just do everything right. He could not run with you. He knew that.
Yeah, I was pretty nervous. I think more nervous if I had to run in Anderson or Austin or Newberry due to the fact that I've won a few national events without running anybody during eliminations, and he's had a day like that, and he could have won.
Great job. Congrats again.
Thank you very much.
Boy, what a performance by Frank Manzo and all his friends down here from Vinnie Baroni's crew. These New York, New Jersey racers are a happy bunch.
And some interesting insight from Frank Manzo, who indicated that he was still very concerned, even though Parker hadn't put up the numbers all day long. He now savors the championship as we look at Don Blackshear rolling into position, getting set to stage. He'll be in the far lane for this final in Alcohol Dragster against the red-hot combination headed by Bill Barney.
And unlike Parker in the funny car final, Blackshear, if he's done everything right in the pits, could run with Bill Barney. It is Blackshear away first by 7/100ths. Blackshear's ahead.
But here comes Barney, and Barney gets the win. Great comeback in the last third of the strip from Bill Barney as Blackshear clearly had the whole shot. And Don Garlitz is with crew chief Mike Cooper.
Well, the crew and the driver did a good job today.
Boy, we worked terribly hard. We worked real hard. There's so many things to make that thing to run right anymore that I wish we had about 3 more people on the crew, like a top fuel crew. Thank you, Don.
Know what you mean.
Well, they made a series of great decisions today, and they needed everything they could muster, Don, because Blackshear had a great jump off the line.
Yes, he did. This was a case of 2 cars almost evenly matched, and the driver of the Blackshear car made up the difference with the whole shot, but it just wasn't quite enough because that PSI blower on top of Barney's car really came on strong at the very end of the race.
Let's get Barney's reaction with Steve.
Oh, Bill, you almost let that one get away from you.
I know it. We sure did. That was a close race.
Yeah, he had a nice little shot off the starting line. He was laying in wait for you up there, an ambush.
He was, yeah. I think he might have had some problems near the finish line when we came around him at the other end.
Yeah, judging by the smoke, but a 6:10 for you.
Oh, all right. Well, we're right there then, so.
He had the consistency, the big numbers. This is one of the most impressive wins you've enjoyed.
Oh, it sure is. I have to give some credit to some friends of mine that loaned me this blower. Donnie and Dennis Allen back in California won the Sears points race, and they shipped it out to me because mine wasn't ready yet. So we put it on there. We've done pretty good another couple in a row. So I'm
indeed.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Great job. Well, I'll tell you, Frank Manzo and Alcohol Funny Car, Bill Barney and Alcohol Dragsters, they just dominated. No other word fits.
So we salute our champions in the Sportsman competition from Montreal. I'm Gary Gerald, along with Steve Evans and Don Garlitz. So long from Sanair.
The executive producer for American Sports Cavalcade is Harvey M. Palish, produced and directed by John B. Mullen. Promotional consideration provided for and a fee paid by the Style Auto World Championship Team. The nation's premier source of fast lane fashions, Style Auto, the champion's choice for the style of your life. And by this special offer from Diamond P.
1989 is one drag racing season you won't want to forget. 19 national amateur events, championships too close to call, and some spectacular incidents. That's why you should order Diamond P Video's Drag Racing 89. And we've added 30 minutes this year. That means 120 minutes of drag racing for just $39.95. So call 1-800-453-8800 now. Drag Racing 89. 120 minutes of the best drag racing action from all across America and Canada. Visa and MasterCard accepted, no CODs. That's 1-800-453-8800 for Drag Racing 89.
The American Sports Cavalcade is a presentation of Diamond V Sport.